5 minutes is all we have to edit this RAW file from start to finish and show you the whole process while doing so. So let's just start with it. Now, one of the things I want to do is bring up the exposure because the picture is quite dark. And what I would probably usually do is bring up the shadows, bring down the highlights. It works, but it doesn't, it just takes away the mood of the whole picture. So I want to reset that and actually bring down the shadows slightly, bring down the highlights. That is just so I have more highlights to play with by bringing up the whites and make it just a little bit more dynamic and lively. Now, one of the things with contrast is a lot of people will just love to bring out to the right. But the thing is, if you have already shadow parts and such bright parts in contrast, well, that means the picture is quite contrasty already. So you don't want to just make it weird, actually bring it a little bit to the minus. And might as well even bring up the blacks by a little bit. Clarity will bring out all of these textures and everything so beautifully, so I'm going to bring that up, as well as the vibrance, bring out really these reds and orange tones, especially this double-decker bus in the background, as well as the underground sign. Want to bring out the reds. Maybe I'm even going to go down into HSL, grab the red saturation, and just bring that up even more so they really punch. Now, going into the tonal curve here, I want to add some more medium contrast, just a very fine kind of contrast, while still keeping the overall picture kind of dark. But again, don't want to just crush all of this stuff and, make it look, I don't know, like a kid painted it. Rather bring up the shadows a little bit so you can keep the rest very dark. Then let's actually, okay, vignetting is definitely going to be a big thing because I want to make the corners darker. I cannot tell you enough how much vignetting can help with night pictures, with evening pictures. Just adding a little bit in there can make so much for the mood. On the sides, it really makes it darker, it makes more attention towards the center. It's just beautiful. Now, in terms of the colors, I think the reds look really beautiful, although they could be a little bit higher luminance. So I'm going to just make them brighter by grabbing this little pinpointer in the HSL tool of the reds, and it will automatically just bring them up or down depending on what I do. And in terms of the oranges, they're quite harsh, so I might even bring them down into saturation a little bit, and perhaps, just perhaps, bring the hue a little bit more towards the yellows. Maybe not. I think that looks good. So going back down again to the split toning, I want to add some warm tones to even make this stronger. Really nothing too crazy though, just about 20 saturation. I always love to add a lot of saturation first, so I actually see the hue that I want to add, and then just bring it down to a more reasonable level. And one big thing that I love to do in night pictures is shadows in the, well, blue in the shadows. Blues in the shadows. It works so well as contrast from the warm lamps, the warm light. You can go for a light blue, you can add some greenish tint in there if you want to have a film look. You can even add some purples in there, but just add it. That way it gives so much differentiation from the highlights to the shadows, and it looks just more professional, cool, amazing, whatever. But anyways, I'm going to go up in the exposure again and bring that up even more. It's still a bit dark, gloomy, I don't know. And maybe even bring up the dehaze. That is supposed to get rid of haze. I mean, there's none in this picture, but it can also bring out all of the crispness a little bit better, a little bit differently than the clarity slider, which I'm also going to bring up even more. I think that actually looks pretty good. Let's go down into the calibration right here and just play around with the red tones. Don't really want a purple double-decker bus, but sometimes it can help to just change it slightly. Maybe bring down the saturation here, and then with the greens, yeah, definitely I wanted to bring that to the right, bring down the saturation also a little bit, and then with the blues, I think I'm just gonna maybe a little bit to the right, and then the saturation I think I'm gonna bring up. So another thing that I don't know, do I still have time? Let's just do it. So sharpening is one thing that works great to really bring out the crispness, and what I like to do is somewhere between 50 and 60 sharpening. And then the mask, I'm going to hold down the Alt key. That's very important because everything that you see that is white is going to be sharpened, and everything that is black is not going to be sharpened. So you don't want to sharpen all of these textures and the sky and stuff that, doesn't have any texture, because that just introduces noise. And speaking of noise, I don't really think I need the noise reduction here, but the color noise, sometimes if you shoot at higher ISOs, in the shadows you will find some purple, green just sensor noise, and by bringing up the color noise reduction slider, it just gets rid of that. It doesn't have any bad impact compared to the noise reduction, which makes the picture more soft. So it's wonderful to use, and of course always want to get rid of chromatic aberration just in case there is some in this picture. Now going to the local adjustments, I really hope I'm not too far over 5 minutes, but I'm going to add a graduated filter over the bottom, just make this a little bit darker. Again, you know, you could make this super bright and bring if I could show you, bring up the shadows like this and stuff, but that just ruins the mood. You don't really want that, at least I don't want that. So I'm actually going to bring down the exposure even further in just some parts with this graduated filter, with these graduated filters, and then also add some rail filters for dodge and burning. Dodge and burning is making individual parts brighter or darker, and I'm talking way too fast, I'm sorry about that, but I want to add these quickly. Alright, so let's just add some over the lights. That way you can actually exemplify and make the bright parts a little bit brighter, more interesting, more exciting, or even like, you know, pretend like the line is has been shining a lot more on the stairs than it actually has. So just add a little bit more exposure here. Make sure you have the feather at 100. Very important for the stuff to blend in. Otherwise it looks like you just randomly placed some sunbeam there for no reason. And I always like to also add a little bit of minus exposure in some parts, like here, add a little bit of contrast and yeah, that kind of stuff. Let's bring that over here. And then with the sky, unfortunately no clouds in there, but otherwise I could even like add a graduated filter to bring these out and add some colors and whatnot. But I think that actually looks pretty good. And you know what? I think a lot, huh? But bringing up the darks might be a good choice because it was a bit too contrasty for me. And then the shadow tint is different than the overall tint, but I think, again, I said it again, minus here works a bit better, just so it's not that purplish in the shadows. And you know what, maybe even go into the purples here, bring it down a little bit as well as the magenta in the HSL tool. And you know what, I think I still have a bit too much purples. I'm going to bring down the overall tint a bit more and even go into the shadows again, where I added this blue and add a more distinctly blue hue rather than kind of a blue purplish one. And that's already pretty much all I'm gonna do. So thank you very much for watching. If you want to edit a picture even faster than in 5 minutes, you can check out my presets. I made them so you can really take your raw file and edit it completely from start to finish for landscape, cityscape pictures, street photos and stuff like that. So if you're curious, just want to check them out, check out the link in the video description or on the screen. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, have a wonderful day and keep on editing great pictures.